Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, we got a bunch of us here, and we got a very special guest, another person I had met at the Cosmic Summit, and I'm very happy to finally get him on. But before we introduce the guest, we will have the other rejects introduce themselves. And first, we got Brooke. What is going on, Brooke? How are you tonight?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Hello, fellow rejects. I'm really excited to be here and talk about this topic. You can find me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much. Go check out her YouTube. She's got some like new, like on the ground, boots on the ground, actual stuff. So go check it out. Thank you very much, Brooke. And we got my man, Jin the Ninja. What is going on? How are you?
What is up, Cardinal? So I'm Jin the Ninja, host a show called Threshold Saints. It's serial experiments in speculative ontology. Nick just pulled me from another live that I co-host with a group of other magicians, which is called The Gray Lodge, which we host a pirate radio show on Twitter. So tonight's theme was rune culture. So it's speculative cultural ecologies. So if you're interested in kind of like ideas in meta magic, metafiction, and metapolitics, those could be a cool space for you. You can check me out on IG at Threshold Saints. You can check me out on Twitter at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn, and the show account at Threshold Saints. Thanks, Nick, and thanks to the panel as well.
Of course. No, thank you. And definitely go check out his spaces. I will say, I mean, I've been in there a few times, and they do definitely get into some deep shit. And, it's really good, honestly. So go check it out. And then we got my man, Tim Constantine. What is going on, sir? So glad that you can make it today.
Hey, me too. Happy to be here. Good to see all the other rejects. Dave, looking forward to this. I've got a Sunday show called Conspiracy Garden over on Cult of Conspiracy. And my main show is where you could probably find me the best is Sixth Sensory Podcast, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. So always happy to be here, Nick. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, definitely go check out Tim and Julia's work on the Cult of Conspiracy. You got two rejects over there putting out their own stuff. Go check it out. Thank you very much, Tim. And we got my man, Tyrone. What is up, sir? How are you?
What's going on? Hey, what's up, Dave? Welcome, man. Glad to see you, man. Been about 2-3 weeks before we had some good discussions, man. Good to see you. Everything that you want to read about me or know about me is on my website, rebirthoftheword.com. You can also buy my book, Journey Through the Origins of History, through Amazon, which became bestseller. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you. And last but not least, we got the man himself, Ethan Indigo. What is going on, sir?
Peace. Honored to be here. Thank you so much, Nick, and everybody. Salute. Honored to communicate with you guys, Dave. I know this is going to be dope. Excellent topic of interest. What a great study and very timely. Ethan Indigo Smith. I'm on all the usual social media, and I have a few books on Amazon as well, and trying to write articles regularly. So yeah, this is going to be great.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Do you want to plug any like specific books or anything and tell people where they can go find?
Oh, you know what? The Fourth Initiation is my most recent book. I highly recommend it. I just even found I was talking about the ruffians in relation to the Yakin and Boaz pillars and the three ruffians, and yeah, that's all in there now, and some highly interesting stuff. And I've been reading Tyrone's book as well. So yeah.
Nice. Thank you very much. And finally, to the man himself, we got Dave from Mike and Dave's Multiverse. Dave, please let everybody know what your deal is, what's up, where they can find all of your stuff, and whatever you like to plug.
Yeah, we got a channel, Mike and Dave's Multiverse. I'm the Dave of Mike and Dave's. We do a live stream on Thursdays around 7. We usually have guests. We talk about shit Mike and I like, which is like science, lost ancient history, that kind of thing. We drop interviews every Friday. Sometimes we drop interviews on Monday. The interviews are just with people we think are interesting, typically in the space of lost ancient history and that kind of thing. But I'll talk to anyone I think has an interesting story. I'm a people person. And so I'm also a veteran. So I've talked to a bunch of veterans with cool stories. And Tyrone's been on my show like 5 different times. Ricardo, who's a longtime friend and guest of this show, has been on my show a bunch of times. And it's fun. We're having a lot of fun with it. We just started building it last year. And I literally just went to Cosmic Summit last year. And I was like, the year before this year, last year. And I was like, I met Mike there, and then I sent him a text a few months later, said, "You want to start a shitty podcast?" And he was like, "Let's go." So here I am. I normally, so just FYI, the topic is 3I Atlas, the new interstellar object. I am in no way qualified to talk about this. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an amateur astronomer. I have a telescope myself. I got into astronomy when I was living in California. You see the stars out there in the desert like nobody's business. It's ridiculous. And that's why I literally went out to the desert in Joshua Tree, saw the Milky Way for the first time, and then bought my first telescope. And I have that telescope upstairs, and I'm going to use it to look at this object in September. So that's the object that we are going to talk about today. And when I found out about it, I don't know, I became obsessed over like the last 2 weeks, and I've been like reading about it and grokking about it and reading articles and making a PowerPoint. And then Nick sends me a message like a couple days ago, "Hey, you want to come on the show, do your thing?" I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So I'm used to being the host, but now I'm going to be doing a presentation for you guys on 3I Atlas. I just wanted to ask though, the chat and you guys, like, what have you guys heard just, you know, through going online and shit like that about this?
I had seen something on it, didn't look into it. I saw it like scrolling and didn't really know anything until you told me about covering it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I was interested in it since the Oma. Forgive my lack of pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah. Close. It's close. You're close.
Yeah, I was going to say that too because.
But yeah, since that came through and some of the speculation on that by the same gentleman primarily, I believe.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
Avi Loeb. So yeah, fascinating.
We'll be talking about him and his speculation tonight. Brooke, have you heard about this?
I was going to ask, does it have any correlation to the Black Knight satellite? Is it the same thing?
No, not at all. But I should do one on that. That thing's pretty badass. So I maybe I'll do another one on that one.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to learning about this.
Cool. Awesome. Tim?
Brooke stole my question. That's exactly what I was going to say because I'm familiar with that. I talked to Cliff Dunning about the Black Knight satellite as well. I think at one point he was working on a book about it. So that's what came to mind for me. But no, this is new to me, so I'm excited to hear about it.
Cool. Well, 3I Atlas is a interstellar object, the third of its kind. Tyrone and Ethan mentioned Oumuamua, which is Hawaiian. I'm going to tell you what that stands for here in a bit, or what it means in Hawaiian. But it's actually the third of its kind. We've only discovered 3 of these things since Oumuamua was discovered in 2017. There was one discovered called Borisov by a dude named Borisov. And so Borisov was an amateur astronomer as well. So this is the third one. We're going to cover this one. We're going to cover the other 2. We're going to do some comparisons. We're going to speculate because I love speculating. We're going to check out the actual science behind what we actually know about this thing and what we know about the other stuff and what we can find out and what we can look forward to in the future about this object. So any comments, questions, concerns before I pull up my slides?
No, not at all.
All right. So I've never done this on this platform before, so let's give this a go.
Sure. Oh, one thing, I mean, I don't know, maybe you already kind of answered it somewhat, but like, what was it that like really got you going on looking into it? On
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. It's the Oumuamua, and it's the fact that there is it's an interstellar object, only the third of its kind, so it's extremely rare, extremely, and so it's one of those things that we very rarely get a chance to look at or study, and it ignites like wild speculation. So people have been speculating like nobody's business about this thing. And we're going to get into a little bit about that as well. So that's kind of what got me into it. And I got a new computer, so I was been fucking around with that all week. So,
Nice.
So can you guys see the slideshow?
Yes. Oh, there
Awesome.
we go. You will expect
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. Alien mothership or big ass space rock. So we're going to compare Oumuamua, Borisov, and Atlas. And I guess the best place to start this for me personally is you got to go back all the way to 1993. I was 11 years old. I had a neighbor girl who was 16, and my mom paid her to take me to the movies. She was supposed to take me to some kid movie, and I ended up talking her into taking me to see Fire in the Sky. Has anybody ever seen that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite movies, man, with Travis Walton, bro. That's actually what got me into aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That is
same.
one of
11
the-
years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fire in the Sky. It has Robert Patrick, who was the T-1000 in Terminator 2 as well. So pretty badass. Great movie. Started this whole thing for me. Also, the same year, my favorite show of all time came out, The X-Files. Okay. And since then, I've been a bit of a UFO nut. But I'm a pretty rational guy as well. If you can see behind me, I got an X-Files poster. I want to believe, but I just don't believe everything I see or hear. I like to dig into this shit. So let's take a look at the first link. It's a short time lapse of what this thing that we found, the 3-Eye Atlas, looks like. All right, so go ahead and show that, Nick.
Sure. All right. Pull this up.
Will I have to reshare screen every time you do that?
Well, no, I'll just pull yours down and yours will stay like in the background, and then I'll
Got it.
There we go. See, yeah, don't touch nothing. We're good.
Yep.
Bam. Okay. So I guess I start this from the beginning.
Yeah, started from the beginning. It's short. You can enlarge it. So this is it. This is 3-Eye Atlas. Okay. This is what we got. And this is what has ignited wild speculation across the internet. Okay. That is 3-Eye Atlas. Now, so we're going to rip on my boy here, Joe Rogan. Love his channel. Watched probably 1 million hours of it. And I do this shit all the time. Okay. What Joe's about to do here. Okay. But this is just what I mean. We went from this to what Joe says on the largest platform in the world. So let's check out the second link that I sent. Nick, thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem.
We're going to watch this for a few seconds, so hopefully it doesn't get you demonetized. But if it does, at least we had fun.
Yes. All right. I'm going to turn the sound up too. And you know where it is around, or is it just right here?
Yeah, right off the bat. Yeah. Let me go back just a bit.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I'll tell you when to stop.
Do you hear about that fucking object that's hurtling towards Earth at like 130,000 miles an hour?
No, that might solve all our problems.
Some intergalactic object that's hurt. There's this guy, Avi Loeb. He's a professor at Harvard that believes it might be an alien probe.
Wow.
And he was talking about the odds of this thing being in the trajectory that it is, entering into our solar system in a direct path with Earth. The odds are extremely low. And at the place where it's doing it, it's when the Earth is the opposite side of the sun. So it's coming from behind the sun. And it's so it makes it difficult to detect. And that this object is in a direct line to come to Earth in 2027.
Okay, you can pause.
Do they have a trajectory?
And give me back my slides.
All right.
Hey, while you're doing that, Avi Loeb, his book is actually interesting about the extraterrestrial version of that, what you're talking about.
The Oumuamua?
Yep.
Yeah, it is interesting. And, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Avi that we'll get to. But I like speculation like that. It sparks... it sparks interest, and it sparks like people wanting to look into this stuff. So right now because of Avi Loeb coming out on this new one, there's thousands and thousands of amateur telescopes being pointed at this object right now. So it just gives an opportunity to look into this shit, right? So there's a few things Joe said there so first of all, he mentions Avi Loeb, who we're going to cover, but he's one of the only guys who says that this thing is alien. Okay. Most scientists say it's not. However, you guys have had a lot of ancient history people on the show, right? Most archaeologists, Egyptologists and stuff say, oh, we already know the story, right? And then there's people who go out on a limb and say, hey, actually, I think that story's bullshit. So you can think of Avi Loeb as Robert Schoch or Graham Hancock or something in the ancient history world, okay? And I was going to say next slide to you, but I'm actually talking to myself. All right, let's go. So after 1993, we get these guys, all right? Independence Day, I believe 1997. Deep Impact and Armageddon, I believe, came out both in 1998. So I want to ask you guys, what do you see in common about these three advertisements for these three movies? I'm looking for a couple different things.
Predictive programming.
Sure, yeah, definitely. What else?
Regardless, it's something that's gonna like impact the earth and devastate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some kind of impact.
Yeah. Anything else?
Horrible.
Yeah. Who are we looking at here? Who are we looking at?
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yeah. Morgan Freeman, Will Smith. These are three of the biggest actors in Hollywood in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just saying that might be for a reason, right? Somebody mentioned predictive programming, right?
Yeah.
Right. And Dave, I would add to that, because I like where you're going with this, and say, well, maybe you've seen this, so I'll just throw it out there. I don't promote Wikipedia, but there is a couple good Wikipedia articles that I've seen. One is called the Military Entertainment Complex, and it has a list of movies that were made with the DoD and other forms of government, including the CIA. And these gentlemen here that we're looking at, a lot of their movies are on that list.
I would believe that 100%. I'd love for you to send me that list, actually, or tell me after when we get offline so I can check it out. But yeah, I believe that 100%. I have a question here, and it's, are you the mark? Am I the mark? The mark is a pro wrestling term, meaning like when Hulk Hogan stabs his best friend in the back and the whole crowd goes, no. And then there's maybe like 10 people in the crowd are like, oh, this is fake. The mark is the guy that's like, oh no, Hulk Hogan turned bad. I can't believe it, right? And I generally think that we're all the mark in some way or another, not just on this topic, but in most. But I personally fucking love all three of these movies too. So I've seen them all a million times. There's another one that came out in 1997, Contact, starring Jodie Foster, where she's working.
Oh, that movie was bugged out.
Yeah, it's a trip, right? She's working at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, and she is the lead scientist for SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which I don't believe is still in operation. I could be wrong.
Carl Sagan wrote the original script for that.
Yes, and it's an excellent movie. It really is. Go ahead.
I said Carl Sagan's a rather interesting guy.
Man, y'all forgot the best one out them all. Y'all don't remember The Arrival? Remember when they was able to bend their knees backwards and shit?
The Arrival. Was that in the 90s?
Yeah, that's with Charlie Sheen. Yeah, that was with Charlie Sheen.
I don't remember that one. I'll check. I'll have to look into it, man. I don't remember that one. I remember these guys because one of the themes, and somebody mentioned is that, I think Nick mentioned, is that in Deep Impact and Armageddon came out in the same year. An asteroid is coming for Earth, and the government has to save us, right? And Independence Day is an alien mothership, and we need the government to save us. Will Smith, right? So if this thing is, if this thing we're about to talk about today is an alien mothership, Will Smith better get his shit together, because we're gonna need his ass, right? So I'm not going to hang around this slide too much, just a short agenda: interstellar object overview, detection methods, detailed object comparisons, scientific perspectives. Avi Loeb we mentioned, talk about his research, and a little bit of media and public discourse. A couple key scientific terms I'm highlighting in red. I don't expect you guys to read all this shit, or anyone who's watching. But the eccentricity is a measure of an orbit shape ranging 0, which is a circle. It's a complete circle around the sun, to greater than 1, or hyperbola. Hyperbola means it's greater than 1, and it's got an orbit that's going to leave the solar system. So keep that in mind. Eccentricity greater than 1 is a trajectory that's going to enter the solar system and leave. Everything that's in the solar system is less than 1. Got it? Also, the perihelion is measured in astronomical units. It's where 1 AU equals approximately 150 kilometers. And the perihelion is the average Earth-Sun distance. It's a distance influence Earth object brightness and activity. The perihelion is the point in an object's orbit closest to the sun. So Joe mentioned something, and what he was talking about there was he said that this thing is coming from behind the sun. That's a little bit of misinformation there. We're watching this thing come at us right now. When it hits its perihelion, Atlas is going to be directly behind the sun, meaning we won't be able to see it. So when it's the closest to the sun it's going to get, we're not going to be able to look at it at all. That's part of why Avi Loeb is speculating. Okay, that's part of what's giving it the speculation. We'll get to that in a bit. The coma is the tail, a cloud of gas or dust surrounding nucleus of a comet. And then a hyperbolic orbit I mentioned earlier, orbital path with eccentricity greater than 1. Objects on hyperbolic orbits pass through once and then escape into the interstellar space, not returning. So we've only seen 3 of those to date, starting in 2017. These aren't as important except for the orbital inclination and velocity. That determines the eccentricity and the trajectory. So the velocity and the orbital inclination is what makes up the eccentricity and what decides if the object is going to start orbiting the sun or shoot out into space after it passes it. Okay. How do they name these things? Comets are typically named after the discoverers or the observatory that found them. Interstellar objects, they had to create a new one with the prefix I for Oumuamua, which means scout or messenger in Hawaiian. It's that reflecting its status as the first detected interstellar visitor. But usually they're named after an observatory or a dude. 2I Borisov was named after a dude, amateur astronomer who found it. 3I Atlas was named after the observatory that initially discovered it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what's in the solar system. There's over 1 million asteroids larger than 1 kilometer in diameter. These are all in orbit with the sun and do not have an eccentricity greater than 1. Comets, holds approximately 3,000 known comets. Note the word known comets because we really don't know a whole lot of shit even about our own solar system. I'll get to that later. There's other bodies. Solar system contains millions of smaller objects, including meteoroids, centaurs, and trans-Neptunian objects. I read what those were yesterday, but I forget now. Centaurs and trans-Neptunian objects. Somebody wants to look it up, please go ahead. But we're looking at the Oort cloud and the asteroid belt here. Talk a little bit about that. Oort cloud is located far from the sun, 2,000 to 100,000 astronomical units away, mostly of icy comets, small planets, and remnants of the solar system formation. The asteroid belt overview that's the one that everyone's heard about. That's located between Mars and Jupiter, 2 to 4 astronomical units from the sun, consists mostly of rocky and metallic asteroids. So these are the bad boys that we're here to talk about today. Has anyone ever heard of Borisov? Any guys? Is this the first time you're hearing of Borisov?
First time for me.
Anyone? No?
I will say really quickly is the idea of the
please.
trans-Plutonian is a very interesting idea in modern magic, contemporary to like Kenneth Grant and his idea of the trans-Plutonian, as well as Twyman's idea of the hyper-Uranian. And so there is another idea. I know we're talking about astrology, but astrology is in some ways a speculative sort of cosmological map, right? It's not fixed. We can only be the observer of things that we see from afar. We can't testably prove. We might have methodologies, but we can't testably prove what's out there. We can just observe them and describe them. And the description is the sort of layer that especially magicians are most interested in, I would say. And so the idea of the Trans-Plutonian can also be compared to tantric astrological figure named Ketu, who is the smoky tail of the dragon, and he is also the lord of comets and asteroids. So there's something interesting, and this would be like a realm of dreams. It would be like a very dreamlike, delusional flux space, a space of smoke, a space where you could draw ideas from that have in one perspective little potential on their own, but when you reconstitute them into with synthesis or with other things, they can become something greater. So like a story also comes from this idea of like the trans-Neptunian, because you're drawing in all these different elements and remixing them. So I just want to throw that out there, that you can also understand astrology through this more kind of meta-mythological sort of framework.
I appreciate that. And I want to encourage you guys to jump in anytime you want. I don't want to be PowerPointing this whole time without hearing anything in the background. So thank you. And yeah, I mean, humans are storytellers, and we still do it even through science. That's why we give these things cool names like Atlas or what was that? I'm trying to find it here, Trans-Plutonian or whatever. We still do that today. And we're doing it right now with this, with these objects, right? And we've been telling stories about the stars in the night sky since probably for 300,000+ years, maybe longer. Probably lower forms of hominids were talking about this shit too. So Oumuamua was first discovered on October 19th, 2017. And keep this in mind, 40 days after perihelion. So 40 days after its closest approach to the sun, this bad boy was on its way out. It was notable for its elongated shape. I'm probably going to mention that a couple different times. Borisov, the dude was from Crimea, and it was first spotted August 30th, 2029. His name was Gennady Borisov, and he discovered it on a pretty small telescope. So that's kind of cool. I just think that there's some badass out there right now, some kid or something who's going to find, you know, the one that might take us out, you know, and I just think that's cool. I love amateur astronomy, and I'll mention how you guys could get involved in this later, even if you don't have a telescope. So
Hey, Dave.
Yeah,
hey,
go
real
for
quick before you say that, you know how the Simpsons always have predictions and stuff like that. Well, I love the Simpsons a lot. You know, there's actually an episode where Bart finds one that hits planet Earth. It's not as big and destroys it or nothing, but you know how they always say the Simpsons predict things. So they actually do have an episode about that.
For sure, exactly. And in the movie Deep Impact, starring Frodo Baggins or Elijah Wood, he's the kid who discovers the one that's going to hit Earth from his backyard. So there you go. The cool part about 3I Atlas, it's the largest known interstellar object. It's approximately 7 miles wide. That's changing constantly because they're pointing stuff at this, like telescopes all around the world, institutional ones, private ones, just regular dudes in their backyard. Everyone's pointing telescopes at this, so they're updating this thing constantly. So that may change over time. It does show some cometary activity, and we'll get into that. But Oumuamua did not show a whole lot of cometary activity, which kind of sets it apart a little bit. Just really quick on this one, methods used to detect objects. Surveys detect faint and fast moving bodies that might otherwise go unnoticed. That's the telescopic surveys. Orbital analysis, we're looking for high orbital eccentricity, like I mentioned, indicates a hyperbolic orbit. It means it's unbound trajectory, typical of interstellar origin. And it's just going to float by the sun and keep going. We've only discovered 3. I think we probably see, there's probably been a bunch. We just haven't had the technology to see it. After these things are initially detected, they always point like your Hubbles and your James Webb space telescopes and stuff like that at them, and the bigger ones, to try to get more data. They're usually discovered by accident.
Yo, real quick, Dave, just toss this in there. You know the unicrystal hexagram?
The what?
Unicrystal hexagram, the tattoo that I had on my arm when I met you.
Yes, I know the tattoo, but please tell me.
Dad, the Hubble telescope, that's how it reflects the mirrors inside of it to see what it says.
I did not know that. That's wild.
It reflects
I need
just like the universal hexagram.
I need to look into that. Please send me some more information on that when we're done.
Yeah.
Sweet.
You know, I want to throw something in here real quick and
Yes.
bounce this off of you, Dave. You know, there's a lot of old paintings and what I would call religious art from as far back as the 1400s that show, just to use a broad term, UFOs or something out of the normal in the sky. So, you know, before we had cameras, before we recorded all this stuff, before we even had like NASA, people were seeing something up there, usually accompanied by a bright light. You know, like you've got the 1460 La Tabate. I pulled this up while you're talking there. It's depicts Jesus on the cross with a UFO zipping by. That's a 1460 painting. You've got Baptism of Christ painted in 1710 by a Flemish guy. You have the Annunciation with Saint Emetius in 1486. I'm not going to read through all these artworks, but they're all compelling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they are too. And I don't. People in the 1400s weren't stupid. People 50,000 years ago weren't stupid. They had the same size brains that we do, right? So they definitely saw something. The question is, I guess, in relation to this topic is, did they see something that came from a different solar system, something interstellar, or did they see something that came from the Oort cloud or the asteroid belt, something bound by the sun, right? But to say that we've only discovered 3 is, I think, like I mentioned, likely wrong. Like maybe we've been hit by one. Maybe they've seen some before. I personally believe that there was an ancient lost civilization that had technology that, you know, understood astronomy very well. I mean, the Mayans understood astronomy very well, so they knew that there was stuff coming and going. So yeah, I think you're right, man.
Actually, yeah, and there's one more that I really wanted to mention. The 1561 celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. Very interesting stuff. It inspired this guy to create a woodcut of the event, and it looks like chaos. It's like something came down into our atmosphere and just buzzed around and created chaos. It looks like a bunch of things came down. And I would say too, like more modern times, I'm thinking about that 1940, I think, the Battle of Los Angeles, where there's a lot of documentation, like something was up there in the sky. So there's all kinds of crazy accounts that came out afterwards that were kind of countering what the government was trying to tell everybody that it was. And they just dumped pounds of ammunition at this thing and it never came down. If it was a weather balloon, they would have blown it out of the sky. So
yeah, that Germany one literally looked like a space battle in the sky. It looked like some Star Wars shit, you know. Dude. And the Battle of Los Angeles, which they made another Hollywood movie about, that there was in the, I think, early 2010s, but that was took place in modern time. They just called it Battle of Los Angeles. The U.S. Army unloaded on that thing. Yeah, and nothing happened. There was thousands of witnesses. So yeah,
and some of those witnesses would later go off, you know, to scatter around, do all these other various interviews. Some of them survived, and they get real interesting because a lot of those people said they were seeing orbs flying around and like things were buzzing the beach. There was more than just that one big object. So
exactly. And so
it was after World War II, just to add on the whole idea of like documented anomalies. After World War II in Washington, D.C., there were so many lights in the sky. Thank you. That it became undeniable and had to be addressed by the president himself, I believe, if not his Defense Department. Anyway, just wanted to add.
Yeah, I mean, there's cave drawings with fucking UFOs on them. You know what I'm saying? So we've been seeing shit coming and going from this planet for a long time. Whether it was aliens or not, I don't know. I like to think so.
You know, one thing I do want to just toss in there too, something I kind of mentioned it before. When it comes even to our whole understanding of what's out there to begin with, kind of, I forgot the person's name, whoever had it, where, everything was revolving around the earth. And then when we switched to the sun, both of them were occultists and both of them were alchemists. And I'm covering somebody, start recording it soon. And people probably are tired of hearing about him, but Tycho Brahe, I covered him because he was, he had his 2 observatories and he built his own shit. And he actually made stuff better and made it more on point. And he was totally into the occult. He had talismans on the observatory. He had the flower beds were grown in planetary energies. He had his own apothecary. Like, it was a self-sustaining thing too. Like, they were making medicine. The stuff that he was growing, he was in charge of where he lived to actually treat people as well. And it was all being done in this observatory. Turned it into an alchemy lab besides looking at stars. So even sometimes when it comes to all this stuff, I do take it like there might be like some other truths in there that aren't being seen. You know what I'm saying? I do think there might be some occultism sometimes within this stuff nowadays that we see.
Probably. And one of the biggest secret keeper organizations of all time, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, has a big ass telescope in Arizona. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Mount
one of
Graham
theirs is called
International
Lucifer.
Observatory. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's
one
the
of
one
them
in Arizona.
acronym is Lucifer. Yep. It's interesting because Lucifer, Satan, devil, a lot of times some people will go and reference that as being having knowledge or somebody trying to give you knowledge. That's why they, the serpent had Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge.
Exactly.
There's definitely, like, to add to what Nick's saying, an occult component to all this, in my opinion, as well. I mean, even down to just like Jack Parsons, Kenneth Arnold, who saw the 1947 account that kicked off the UFO wave of 47. He knew Jack Parsons, and even as far back as like the 3 wise men, they were alchemist astronomers. That whole story is about these 3 guys that were, I think, old Zoroasters from Iran, or Magi, or both. And these are guys in touch with the language of the stars and old spiritual technologies of astronomy. But they're also alchemists and occultists, watching this, following this thing in the sky that, as the story goes, led them to Bethlehem.
It's interesting you bring up Kenneth Arnold because I know his granddaughter and her boyfriend, and they're both occultists. Yeah.
Well,
I don't even think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Brooke. Go, Brooke.
Oh, no. To talk about Lucifer again for just 1 second, also known as the Morning Star, some have speculated that some of the asteroids that we see around the Earth were actually the impacts from when he was cast from heaven with his fallen angels. And a lot of times in pop culture, he's depicted as that fall from heaven, like an asteroid, like a mighty fire falling. That's interesting.
What Brooke said was really important, I think, to play into what I said about the tantric sort of figure, the Jyotisha figure, or Ketu. He is a Luciferic force, and he can be divided between Hod or Mercury and Netzach or Venus. So again, tying into that Luciferic force, but you could also break it into the Steiner cosmology, where there's a Lucifer and an Ahriman. He would actually fit both of those archetypes, and he does. And I think that Steiner was also drawing from some of those ideas that obviously come from it. So I think it's really important to, like Brooke is saying, you can encapsulate it in one sort of greater mythology, but you can also encapsulate it in another. And just like NASA presents a kind of Kabbalah, like Nick and I discuss this a lot. If you understand Kabbalah to a degree, you can, if you understand astronomy to a degree, you actually understand Kabbalah to a degree. And if you understand Kabbalah, you can look at the planetary system as a kind of a way of understanding it. It's an imperfect way, but yeah, I mean, it's really important. It's like any story by a magician. It is not necessarily occulted. It might be encoded. Sometimes that's, I think, a better way to think of it.
Yeah, another thing, just not to keep on hopping on the occultism, but somebody mentioned Jack Parsons before. I think it was Tim. I mean, you have him. Like a lot of certain things that he accomplished, some things that we have now, obviously going to space and doing certain things wouldn't have technically been possible. And even just between that and he was involved with Aleister Crowley, and then like I mentioned before, the Hubble telescope, which is NASA's, their mirrors is the universal hexagram. Like maybe there's something up with space.
Yeah, Nick, you brought up the Bledsoes too, man, and like they're saying the younger Bledsoe is going out on podcasts now and saying that the UFO thing is, I think, it's totally an occult thing and tied in with NASA and the U.S. government.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I heard him say that at Contact in the Desert. Yeah, so
that's like his thing now. Is like, and I don't know if they went into this whole scenario with an esoteric lean, but they've definitely found themselves at the doorsteps of the esoteric lean.
Yeah, and just even NASA uses, we're using the term Atlas to describe this telescope that found 3I Atlas, the comet, and that's based in myth and whatnot, right? And so, but it is an acronym because they like their acronyms. It's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. That kind of cracks me up, just that name, Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. It scans the sky for moving objects, 4 telescopes across Chile, South Africa, and Hawaii, and it takes over 800 images a night. They first saw this thing on July 1st, 2025, and that's it right there in the picture. I want to talk a bit about Oumuamua. And this, we're just highlighting the differences in these things, okay, guys? So the estimated size range was 100 to 1,000 meters. That's a large range of variability. Just keep that in mind. And it had a highly elongated cigar-like shape. Its speed was 87.7 kilometers a second at perihelion. They're always going the fastest at their perihelion, as close to the sun as possible, and 26.33 kilometers kilometers a second in interstellar space. Still really fast, but this is the one that sparked the whole thing, right? So check that out. This is Borisov. Discovered by an amateur astronomer using a built telescope. Like I said, it had comet-like behavior. They were able to tell that this was a comet pretty quickly, but it was from another solar system. It was 1 kilometer wide, so significantly bigger, with a tail up to 100,000 miles. The tail extended up to 100,000 miles, 32.2 kilometers a second, and 40 kilometers a second in interstellar space. This thing actually was very, it wasn't very dense. It actually started breaking up as it came closer to the sun. And we lost, like, some of this is in our solar system right now.
May I ask?
Yes.
May I ask the Borisov, what was its size relative to Oumuamua? And then also, what is the Atlas 3I? What that size is a lot larger, is it not?
Yes, it's much larger, and it's a great question that we're going to get to. I'm going to compare all of them, but just to go back, Oumuamua is 100 to 1,000 meters. This one's a kilometer wide. Okay. And Atlas is 7 miles or 11 kilometers wide. And this bad boy is coming in hot. It's traveling at speeds between 130,000 to 152,000 miles per hour, or 58 kilometers per second, which is essentially 580 soccer fields per second. And it's almost twice as fast as Borisov and as well as Oumuamua. The weird thing about Oumuamua is it sped up, and we're going to get to that. It sped up in a really weird way. But this is 3I Atlas, this is one of the best pictures we have of it right now, as of like a couple days ago. There are probably better ones by now, or that they're going to have by the end of the weekend, because, like I said, everyone's going bananas over this thing. The thing about this is we caught this one pre-perihelion. So we caught this one way before it hit the sun, which means we got a lot of time and a lot of good opportunities to make some observations about this thing. They say the composition, and astronomy is full of this kind of stuff, guys, but likely includes. So you're going to see a lot of, if you're reading stuff online or watching videos, you're going to hear stuff like likely, maybe, could be, possibly, right? Just FYI. It's estimated to be about 7 billion years old, predating the formation of our solar system. I had to throw this slide in there. That's why it looks different. But I just wanted to get dates and distances for Earth so we can talk about that. And this is where I'm going to need my next link, Nick, when I give you the go ahead. But December 19th, 2025, at a distance of approximately 1.8 astronomical units, which equals about 269 million kilometers, this is when it's going to reach its closest point to Earth. So just FYI. And its perihelion is October 29th, 2025. So the best time to look at this thing is going to be like September, October, November, December, that kind of thing. But I just wanted to throw this out there for modern UFO, UAP phenomenon lore, straight from the mouth of Mr. Jeremy Corbell, if you know who he is. Yeah. Will you hit the next link, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Please.
All right, here we go. And that is on a, yes, this is.
It's on X. This one should be an X link.
Yep. Sorry.
I would assume it would be easier to see this during a new moon.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I'll get to that in a sec.
But the lie is coming. All indications, like all of them, is that that lie is going to be that there is a craft slowly making its way to us here on Earth. And that is the lie they're going to want you.
That's it, Nick.
Wow.
You can watch that whole interview somewhere, probably on YouTube.
So he's saying that it's not a spacecraft.
Well, I don't even know if he's talking about this, but maybe, probably.
That was recorded before this was notified. Not that he's not referring to something like this or this particularly.
Yes, it definitely was recorded months ago. But yeah, I always consider PSYOP in situations like this, guys. So I'm giving you guys the science here, but I'm open to speculation, and I always consider a PSYOP.
I just wanted to point out that someone, actually a couple of the wise people in the chat, noted the concept of Project Bluebeam. Yep. Which I'm sure people are familiar with, but maybe you want to break that down. And I think that's important, like relative to Blue Book, which that we know is not entirely true. So the blue, I think, is like related to the black ops and the white ops, covert and overt. And then you got the blue, but the Blue Book, maybe you want to break that down.
Yeah, I just quickly, I grokked it really quick so I could just answer the question quickly. But Project Bluebeam is a conspiracy theory proposed by a dude named Serge Monist in the 1990s, claiming the NASA and global elites plan to establish a new world order by faking a global event such as an alien invasion or a divine second coming, or both at the same time, just depending on your belief system, using advanced holographic technology, mind control, telepathic communication to manipulate populations into accepting a totalitarian regime. And I think you guys can probably think for yourself and see some examples of that happening right now in society right now, right? Things like, advanced technology for mind control, right? Our phones are doing that, right? Our phones are doing that to us. The algorithms are doing that to us. And the what's the dude's name? the guy Jake Barber, he's one of the most recent whistleblowers in the modern UAP phenomenon. All these modern UAP whistleblowers are former military. I was former military. Tyrone's former military. When you're talking about people who have been, Tyrone and I weren't trained in this, but people were trained 20 years in counterintelligence, 20 years in espionage, 20 years in basically faking it, lying, being somebody that they're not. And then they're all coming out within the last, since Oumuamua was found and since the New York Times article that came out talking about the TikTok, which was in 2017 as well, TikTok object, also 2017. Then you get these wave of guys coming out saying, oh yeah, I'm a whistleblower, right? Biden's the guy who put in the Whistleblower Act and gave these guys permission to do so. I haven't trusted government since 9/11, you guys. So I don't know about you guys, but
I can't believe what those. I don't believe whistleblowers, bro. Like you said, they've been trained their whole military career to do something. Look, you know just as well as I know. They teach us muscle memory, how to react without ever really thinking, and they can't fake it that well. You know what I'm saying? So I don't put my trust in the government nor the whistleblowers and stuff like that. Those are the least of the people that I would pay attention to, because I know how easy it is to be manipulated by these individuals. I mean, basic training, just let alone by yourself. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry, and they hound on you not to think, just react off of muscle and shit like that. So just with these whistleblowers and saying, I want to tell you this information, but I don't want to tell you this information. So what are you really doing? You're doing it just to gain money, because if you really cared about sharing the information, you would just come out and say it. Fuck the whole, I got a clearance type thing. If you really want people to know the truth and you have it, you wouldn't be seeing him beating around the bush.
So there's some whistleblowers who came out that were not former military, former government, or active, CIA or whatever. And those guys get, well, yes, he's a good one. But what I'm thinking about is some of the ones who have tried to come out on Reddit. These are some of the guys who my opinion is that they didn't want the lights, camera, action, book deal, Jeremy Corbell by their side. They just had a story that they wanted to share, perhaps, and they tried to do it on Reddit. And I'm thinking of two of those in particular, and they were only allowed to be on there for about two days before Reddit took the whole thing down. Mm-hmm. Luckily, myself and some others saved the transcripts. But I'm saying that we're in a situation here where some whistleblowers are allowed to proceed where others are not. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the ones who are allowed to proceed are possibly controlled opposition because they are government to begin with.
Well, the same, bro. Follow the money. Just follow the money. That's what they say. Follow the money, and you'll find everything else. Like you said, the ones that don't want the limelight, they're usually the ones that are broke. Don't really have anything going on for them and stuff like this. And the ones that's sitting out there telling it, they got all this fancy ass equipment. They got money. They got people following them, recording and doing this, that, and the third. You got even minions out there fighting for them, and they don't even know what the hell they talking about. So it's definitely follow the money.
Yeah. I mean, one of these guys was a current university professor who came out and was like, look, I just want to get this off my chest, and proceeded to talk to people on Reddit until they basically shut him down. He just it turned into a massive Q&A where he was just like, hey, this is what happened. I worked at this facility. They had a craft there. I want to get this off my chest. I'm choosing to do it on here so I can maybe keep my identity intact. But anyway, it got taken down. And, so we looked into this guy and he seemed legit. He could have made the whole thing up, but there weren't a lot of red flags. And it's like, why? Because I think that Reddit is totally controlled by the government right now. So in my opinion, the reason why it was taken off Reddit was because of military and government back channels running the whole Reddit to begin with.
Yeah, and I think we would be remiss without mentioning the article that's come out within the last month. Forgive me for not remembering his name, but there was a gentleman who, of course, works for the Pentagon, who came out and said basically the whole UFO UAP thing was actually just a hazing ritual performed in the Air Force. Did you guys see that article? Anybody read it?
I did I came across it. Yeah.
So basically what they were saying is when they would have new initiates, obviously they would silo information and things like that, but they would hand out a fake briefing, supposedly, to make people believe that UFO things were happening when really it was just us testing our technologies back in the day, when we were in the Cold War with Russia and seeing if we had the capabilities to combat their nuclear capabilities and things like that. So I totally agree. They're running counter ops on this. I feel like it's ops within ops, and they're just trying to muddy the water so you don't know what to believe or who to trust.
I think you're spot on, Brooke, as far as muddying the waters. And one of the ways they do that is a concept called the useful idiot. The person doesn't have to be a literal idiot, but the government uses people to push a narrative. It's the whole story behind the X-Files in my poster behind me. Mulder was a smart guy, but he was their useful idiot. He wanted to believe all this stuff, so they led him around by his nose, and and it was, the whole thing was a conspiracy in the end, right? And I'm not saying Jeremy Corbell's an idiot. I'm just saying he might be a useful one. I'm not saying that Bob Lazar is a useful idiot, but I'm saying he might be a useful one. They could have showed Bob, I tend to believe Bob, but they could have showed Bob whatever they wanted to show him. Everything that they did where he was at Area S4 was highly compartmentalized. He didn't know anything about anything that was going on unless they showed him. So they could have showed him whatever the fuck they wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, like I'm thinking about some of the stuff that I've read in like Sanskrit or Mahabharata. And, there some of these older texts to talk about a war between Atlantis and the Rama Empire. And they talk about how they had these flying crafts back in the days of Atlantis. And I wonder when I hear Bob Lazar talking about things that were found at archaeological digs, if like there was an advance. I know this is kind of crazy, man, but it just makes me wonder if there was like if Atlantis had flying crafts, and we found some. I know, as crazy and as woo-woo as that is.
It's not crazy, dude. What is the David Grush said under oath in front of Congress that they found, they've got they've got material from crash sites, both crash sites and archaeological sites. So he might be full of shit, but that's the story they're putting out there, is that they have stuff, ancient stuff from archaeological digs, and they've got new shit from the 40s and up. So
I want to just quickly respond to that and to sort of build off of something what Brooke said. So it is about like competing narratives. I agree. And it's also about like where the narrative will synthesize. So the Bledsoe guy got brought up. Yes, his new thing is angels and demons synthesized with obviously aliens. And so it goes to sort of what you're saying, Dave, is that there's always a tendency, especially with magical groups. And if you look, there's a lot of these people are associated with the Typhonian OTO, and I have no problem with that. I think it's kind of cool, to be honest, but I'm not really into the Lovecraft stuff, as I've said many times. But and there's also a lot of Mormons who are very like Book of Enoch, like that's kind of their real mythology is Book of Enoch shit. So regardless of what they say, it's really Book of Enoch.
It's go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So what I want to say is that it's really important that just because they say something is of an ancient lineage or of an ancient technology, this is something that all magicians have done since like the beginning of time. They will claim some secret teacher from the very distant past or from the sky or from this. Oh, I received this special, makes me a special snowflake knowledge. And that's not necessarily true. That's sort of a magician building his own mythology, self-mythologizing. So I just want to say that is that a lot of groups do, and groups, I'm saying at individual level, but a lot of groups also do this. They'll say, oh, I received this, initiation into this thing. So I think a lot of that ancient stuff is actually about that rather than an actual ancient technology. Because if it's real, I mean, I'm open to being wrong. I'm totally am. But if it's real, show me, because that's all I'm going to believe. For me,
Show me the money.
Unfortunately, that's how occultists are too. Show me. I need to believe. Real quick. Sorry, just real quick, Tyrone. Sorry, Jin. Did you see the video that I posted yesterday?
No, I missed that.
Oh yeah, it was a video from Frata Super Rabo where he actually was like making a spoof on. This is an old video, so back in the day there was like somebody who was pretty much encapsulating what you were just getting. It's pretty funny. Like he was spoofing on the whole same thing. I thought maybe.
Okay, I'll go tweet it right now.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's interesting because y'all talking about aliens and, you're talking about mythologies and stuff like that. Some of the oldest writing systems comes from the Sumerians. I actually have a PowerPoint presentation that I just got done about the Anunnaki / the Anunnaki. And most people who think about aliens, they think about the show Ancient Aliens and so on and so forth, and the Anunnaki and so on and so forth. Well, there's actually cuneiform tablets that say they came from the depths of the sea. Now, Free Bird in the comment section actually said they're not coming from outer space. They're coming from below our feet. And when you look at Enki, the Enki god, he's a fish god. Yeah. Abzu literally means water. Enki rose from the waters to give us technology and information and so on and so forth. This is actually in the cuneiform tablets themselves. So when people like Billy Carson and so on and say, hey, it came from a planet called Nibiru that orbit our sun every 3,600 years, there's no cuneiform tablet that says that. Zero, zilch, none. But if you look at their depictions, their pictographic script and their writing system, they actually say they came from the depths of the sea. And that's why they depicted their gods in fish suits. And also, and that's why the word Abzu literally means water, water knowing. Water, Ab, and Zu means basically knowing. So it's just so interesting that we have these different ideas of where these, extraterrestrials or aliens has come from. It's interesting because Dave said earlier that some people don't believe that they're alien. Well, if anybody that knows me, I like to stick to the definitions of word, the etymological meaning, the origins of the word. Alien literally just means foreign to us. What they're trying to say is that they're not alien intelligence or extraterrestrial intelligence. But what is really extraterrestrial intelligence? What is intelligence in the first place, right? We all have our own intelligence to survive on this planet. That's why so many species last for so long, or whatever happens and a new species come. But the point is that these gods, when they first started writing about these gods, they literally said they came from the depths of the sea. So there could be gods within this planet that we don't know about. Mm-hmm. And then there could be gods outside our planet and the fighting between them. Because remember, you talked about Battle of Los Angeles and all these gods.
And Nuremberg,
Yeah, all these guys, they're fighting each other because the technology. Now, whatever landed here in the past, that they're able to reverse engineer or use that material to better our technology and stuff like that. We've been doing that for years and stuff. I mean, look at the Tutankhamun, King Tut's dagger. You remember they found the meteorite, shaped it up and put it into a dagger. So we know how to work with these things. It just takes years. And then somebody mentioned about the technology. When I was growing up, going to school, ever since I can remember, a lot of my history teachers used to tell me that our government has technology that's 50 years more advanced than what we have now. So what we are using right now is actually 50 years old. And a good example of that, and Dave can back me up on this, when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, I actually served in an aviation unit. So I know very well what stuff in the sky looks like. But they when I was in, they was trying to create a aircraft called the Comanche. Well, it got too expensive and the technology got too much for them to put on that aircraft. So they kind of switched it out and gave it to the AH-64 Delta longbow aircrafts. And that's just the basic upgraded version from the Alpha models. And a lot of people don't realize this, but remember when they went and got Osama bin Laden, they had helicopters that could barely make any noise. They didn't even know there was helicopters around until they crashed. So we have technology that can be silenced. Another good example of this is, let's not forget about the Harrier jet. I know you guys watched that movie True Lies. You remember the jet that Arnold Schwarzenegger took away? Remember how it can move side to side and like a helicopter? So they have jets that can move like helicopters and stuff like that back in that time frame. Just imagine the advanced technology that they have since then.
Yeah, and
May I add
we were texting each other from our Humvees in Iraq in 2004. We were shooting each other
Yeah,
texts.
it's called the Blue Force
Yes, sir.
Tracker. Yeah, the Blue Force Tracker. Yeah,
Right.
you know, we had the Google Maps that we use today to get around in town.
Yeah, we had that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so delayed and so bad. Like sometimes it would drop off, but it was literally called the Blue Force Tracker. It's just you can send your text messages, you can send coordinates, you can send anything that you need to do, and then you can send you can watch where everybody at that has a Blue Force Tracker that's on that same system. You can watch where everybody's going, so you had a pinpoint of everything where everybody was going at. So yeah, our technology
there's a famous story about when the U.S. military got the first jets. The pilots of the propellered planes swore that they saw gorillas flying the jets, or they didn't know what they were. They were describing these vehicles that were propellerless planes flown by gorillas. And little did they know that they were their friends in gorilla masks. And so the idea of pranking even could be just a really simple, Brooke brought it up, how they're using it nowadays in respect to psyching them out of various UFO phenomena. So, but I just wanted to point out that it's kind of a hazing that's tradition, but what if it's not only happening that we know of in respect to that one instance, but also happening in multiplicity and multiple nations, and maybe even it seems to me that these anomalies and so forth, that there's multiple answers seem to be kind of the right direction of things, right? That there's not like one explanation.
I'm with that, Ethan. I think there is multiple things going on here.
Yep.
And I want to add to that whole ancient technology spiel that I went on. Like Mahabharata talks about, again, Rama Empire, right, versus the Atlantis Empire. If you look into this, Rama was ruled by these enlightened priest kings who governed all these cities of that empire. And it was called the 7 great capital cities of Rama. And they were known in like the classical Hindu texts as the 7 Rishi cities. And you can still go and see that some of those cities talked about in these texts exist. One is called Haridwar. It's Haridwar. It's one of the 7 Rishi cities that's talked about in these texts. So if like the cities exist, I'm just saying, like, according to those same texts, the people of these places had flying machines and they called them Vimanas. So I'm just throwing that possibility on the table. Like, how much of this is real, and how much, and what if somebody actually found one of those? And I'm not trying to back up the facade running, baton tossing. I'm not trying to back up these magicians of media today, like Blablazzar and etc. Those guys might be lying through their teeth, but I do think it should be put on the table that some of these crafts did exist and may have been found.
Yeah, I just want to say something really quick to that. 2 things really is that Ethan, that someone brought up Enki and Enlil. There's one way to think of this, is that Enki and Enlil explains 66% of the news and of the world in a way, because that mythology, that competition between competing god kings, pretty much is, I mean, you could map it even to Kabbalah and look at different sort of ways they interact, like the Sephiras interact, like planets interact. And there's also an interesting thing to go back to the trans-Plutonian, is that Enki can also be related to Hokmah, or quote unquote the trans-Plutonians. So, or the trans-Neptunian, not the trans-Plutonian. Sorry about that. Trans-Neptunian. And so Tim, there's something you said that's really interesting. And yeah, I agree that they're described as Vimanas, as flying vehicles, chariots before the sun and all that. In the later sort of remix, which are called the Puranas, which occurred from the 1st till the 10th century, the Vimanas became Vahanas. So the Vahanas are actually animal mounts for the most part. So it's kind of a terrestrializing, meaning coming to Earth, of these celestial forces and then how they interact with us. And of course, the Puranas also have a twilight context, a tantric context, meaning that they can be understood as processes of consciousness, meaning they're just stories in order to help us get there, rather than literal sort of manifestations of what people saw in the material world.
So there
Just as an
are,
idea.
yeah, but there's blueprints and instructions on how to build the crafts. Not only did they talk about the crafts, they said, this is how you build one. And then they went further to say, here's a picture of what it should look like.
So there's multiple truths, right, happening at the same time, and there's multiple obfuscations happening at the same time, right? And we used to, in the 90s, when I was showing you those movies and stuff, back in the, pre 9/11 days in the 80s, we believed all these institutions for the most part, right? Now we all got access to information. And so now it's up to us to tease through what's real and what isn't based on our own worldviews and our own perspectives, right? And so I just like all the stuff you guys are adding to this conversation. I got a bunch of slides, so I'm going to start moving through them. I did want to say Tyrone is coming on my show on the 14th to give his presentation on the Anunnaki. If you're interested, it's at Mike Dave's Multiverse on YouTube. Yeah, good stuff, guys. Good stuff. So these just some, this is going to be quick, some images. The one on the left is an artist's depiction. I just want to say that most shit that comes from NASA is some sort of artist depiction or computer rendition of data. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I said that one time, like somebody was like, going on about something else, and they were like using like NASA's images.
Yeah,
and like, all these people were so convinced, and I was like, "Yo, did you ever notice in the fine print it always says this is CGI?" Or
almost always, yeah.
And like the person like flipping, like people started flipping out. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not being a dick. Go on the website and look at it."
They were
like,
They were reading pictures of Mars for like 40 years, since the 70s. Mars isn't even that red.
Underneath the image, it tells you this is bullshit. It's fake.
Right.
It's not real.
That's a picture of Borisov from the Hubble. That's a picture of Gemini from the Gemini North Telescope. That's a picture of 3i Atlas from the Gemini North Telescope. We got to get back over here. Okay, I want to talk about this quick. This is what makes Oumuamua different. It's rotational variability. Rotational variability is basically how the thing rotates in space. One of the distinguishing features of Oumuamua was that it was in a non-principal axis rotation or a complex tumbling. It rotated every 7 to 8 hours. This is where I need my next link, Nick. We're just going to take a look at an artist's rendition of Oumuamua with a complex tumbling, which is not typical for these types of objects.
Okay. All right.
It should be under animation of.
Yeah. Let me just.
To add one thing, I don't think you mentioned was that the Atlas object is on the same plane as the rest of the solar system, right? Did you mention that in the?
I'm getting to that, but
sorry, I'm
kind of.
on
Yes, you're good. Sorry. You're good. No, I appreciate it. You're good. I'm. It kind of. I'll explain that to the best of my ability when we get there. This is just short. This is just kind of showing what this possibly could look like in its complex tumbling. I don't even think it has. Yeah, okay, it does have some music. So it's kind of just spinning in a weird way through space in it's not a very predictable way. Still, that's actually sped up. If you're thinking about I don't know, what did it say, 6 to 8 days or something like that, or was it hours? I can't remember. But either way, it's going slow, but it's just doing this complex tumbling thing. And Avi Loeb, the guy who's starting all this speculation, is the one who's saying that that's one of the reasons that made it so strange. And I just want to ask yourself, what do you think could cause a quote unquote complex tumbling? Something that could cause like a comet to do that. Anyone?
No.
Reflection or some kind of interaction with the sun's heat or sunlight.
Yeah, it could be an interaction with the sun. Could be an interaction with anything. Any of the 1 kilometer large or bigger stuff in the Oort cloud and in the asteroid belt, right?
And isn't that shape itself, that's the long thing, that's not really supposed to be that common of a thing, right?
Correct. The cigar-shaped thing isn't that common either. But again, we're talking about interstellar objects here, and we've only found 3 of them. So it's hard to say what's rare and what's not when we only have a sample size of 3. But they are comparing them to comets, which we know of 3,000 or so. So just throwing that out there. So that's the rotational variability. Yeah, Saturn's a big one. Thank you for saying that, Mind of Elijah. Saturn affects it's so massive, it affects everything in the solar system in quite a significant way. So so does Jupiter. So key similarities among these things. Each object exhibits characteristics consistent with bodies ejected from other star systems, making them true interstellar visitors. Their detection is extremely rare. It's extremely rare in that we've only had the technology to find this shit in the last 7 years. We just had a whole conversation about possibly seeing them for thousands of years in human history, right? They all have hyperbolic orbits, meaning they're not going to be bound by the sun. They have an eccentricity greater than 1. So they're just going to come in and keep going. Unless they're an alien spacecraft, then they're going to hang out for a bit, and we'll get to that. They all show evidence of cometary or asteroid-like nature. Their hyperbolic trajectories in high speeds are key factors used to confirm their interstellar origin. Key differences, and this is what somebody just asked me about. Oumuamua is the smallest by far, with a cigar-shaped size. Borisov and Atlas are active comets with visible coma and tails. Oumuamua showed no coma, resembling an asteroid or possibly a comet with hidden ice. So the weird thing is if it was as fast as it was going, it should have had a tail, and it did not. But it was also discovered 40 days after perihelion. We had very little time to take a look at it, so we had a brief observation window. But it lacked detectable outgassing, which is the main data point in which Avi Loeb wrote a paper on, including his book that Tyrone was talking about earlier. So yeah, those are some key differences. This is fun. This is just some clickbait article type shit that I came across. I didn't put the actual links in here, but the Hindustan Times, which is a fun one for me. There's my wife. How's it going? Claims 3i Atlas could be an alien spy probe deploying gadgets near planets like Mars and Venus. Could be, is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, guys. The Daily Mail says highlights Avi Loeb's claim about 3i Atlas's size and speed as evidence for alien spacecraft. That's not too clickbaity, but it is in a way, and we'll get to that. Live Science, famous for their clickbaity titles, suggesting that 3i Atlas might be alien technology due to its unusual trajectory and speed, might be doing a lot of heavy lifting. Newsweek and Men's Journal and others. Newsweek focuses on Loeb's claims of alien origin and potential threats using bold headlines. Alien surveillance device. We've got Men's Journal saying so. Wild stuff. And my Google feed is full of this shit because I'm the mark. Just FYI. My X is full of this shit. So I've been teasing through the clickbait and the non-clickbait like for 2 weeks now, just FYI. But have you guys seen any stuff like that on this in the chat or anywhere else? Like just wild speculation on this little tiny dot that we saw earlier that we have very little data on. Anyone see anything goofy?
No, I wish I would have seen the aliens the surveillance device.
Oh, you need to just type in 3i Atlas on X, and then your feed will get overloaded with it. I'm not going to sit here too long, but these are they're more scientifically based, but they're also the ESA, European Space Agency, National Geographic. I mean, these are mainstream as you can get. So, you know, we're balancing between clickbaity speculation and like psyopy, I don't know what to call it, you know, just straight up psyops, right? Because like, I don't really believe a whole lot NASA says or the European Space Agency, but these articles you're going to find at least based and grounded in some quote unquote science and astronomy. Speculation of artificial origins for each one. Avi Loeb and Oumuamua suggested solar radiation pressure acting as a thin light sail as a possible explanation. So we're talking about a thin sail, essentially, like a wind sail, but for light from the sun that uses it as trajectory, okay? And this is a concept that we've seen in some science fiction movies and books and stuff like that. And one of the main drivers of him, like I mentioned, is it lacks cometary outgassing. I'll get to a paper in a little bit that refutes that and explains why it didn't have cometary outgassing. The weird things about Atlas is the fucking thing is huge. All right, it's 7 miles long. It might be, I think it's getting bigger as we speak. Not literally, but like figuratively, because people are pointing telescopes at and bringing back new data. Somebody mentioned this about the orbital plane. It has a close orbital alignment with the inner planets, and the timing near the solar eclipse led to the hypothesis of intentional maneuvering. So like I mentioned earlier, and like I forget who mentioned it, it's basically going to drive straight through Atlases, through the solar system. It's going to stop right behind the sun and essentially get solar eclipsed by the sun for a period of time. And so that's led to the speculation that this thing might be intelligent, hang out back there, hide from us, do a little survey, and then bounce. Okay. And I think that's super interesting. I don't know about you guys, but that'd be pretty badass if that was real. Want to be clear, most scientists reject artificial origin claims due to the absence of conclusive evidence. Again, because I'm an ancient history guy, I want to go back to ancient history and say that most scientists, most Egyptologists and archaeologists reject a lost ancient civilization and think that human civilization is only 6,000 years old or 8,000 years old or whatever, and that the dynastic Egyptians built the pyramids. I don't believe any of that, but you know, you got to take what you get from the institutions with a grain of salt, in my opinion, and you got to take what you get from the speculators with a grain of salt as well. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. Just a little quick bit on the scientific consensus. Oumuamua is, like they say, is likely a natural asteroid or comet. Likely, possibly. You've seen all kinds of words like that, right? Because again, they saw this thing for a very limited period of time. They really don't know shit about it. That's why we had a crappy artistic rendering of it above, right? Limited data due to late discovery. Borisov is definitely was and is gone, but is a typical icy comet. It just came from another solar system. 3i Atlas exhibits a coma and tail indicating active outgassing. It has a record-setting hyperbolic orbit and high velocity that confirm interstellar origin. We're going to get to this in right now. So we mentioned eccentricities when I went over the key terms. Eccentricity is 0 is a perfect circle around the sun. Anything over 1 is going to be an interstellar object. It's going to have too much velocity and too much I don't know, it's just going to be too fast and too hard to be get bound by the sun. It's going to have too much mass, that kind of thing. So you're looking at Oumuamua's trajectory, Borisov's trajectory, and Atlas. Notice the difference between Atlas. It comes right into the inner solar system, passes Mars, like in between Mars and us, and that's weird. So, and it's basically straight. And like I mentioned earlier, the fucking thing is going fast, like 130 miles an hour, 30,000 miles an hour, or something like that. Here is a animation of Borisov and Oumuamua's eccentricities. I think this is kind of cool. So watch that again. It's my personal belief that this happens a lot. The three rare ones, quote unquote rare ones, are just a result of the fact that we have better technology now, which I'll get to. Let's check out Atlas, and that's when I need my next link. Nick, please. And points to the panel, anyone on the panel or in the chat who can guess the music that's going along with the eccentricity of Atlas. I'll give one hint. We talked about it already.
It's the theme song for Armageddon by
Aerosmith. Yeah,
Yes.
good guess. But let's wait till we hear it. That's a good song. I like that song.
The next link that I have would be the actually the alien tech.
Alien tech.
And then I have Behold, Rubin Observatory after that. And then I have
So you might have missed it. Go back to the email I sent you, and I'll pull it up too. But I definitely sent it. It just didn't show up in the links in the bottom because it was a short, I think.
what was it?
It should say 3i Atlas or something like that in there.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's just not. It's
yeah. The link at the bottom didn't show up.
Okay, no, I got it. It just wasn't in the right order.
Yeah, just put that in order with the rest of them so that
I'll pull it up now.
Perfect.
Okay, here we go.
That Aerosmith one would have been too obvious. So that fucking song was everywhere.
Yeah. It would have been cheesy too, so I'm happy about it not being in here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this thing?
Yeah, and this is 3i Atlas in its eccentricity. See if you can get the music going as well.
Oh, shit, how do you turn on the music?
Might be top left or something. There should be, yeah, there you go. Can you hear that? I can barely hear it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, turn it up a little bit more.
It sounds like waiting room music.
It's a famous composition. I can't remember who by, but it's from the movie Contact with Jodie Foster. Did anyone else get it? Nope. All right. Here's where I need you, Nick. I want you to try to pause this at this object's perihelion, okay? So when it gets as close to the sun as you can possibly get it, I want you to pause it. Right about now. Okay, so that's close enough. So I just wanted to illustrate that when it's at its perihelion, when it's as close to Earth as possible, we're going to be on the exact opposite side of it, and we're not going to be able to see it. And so you can see Earth there on the bottom right, the blue one. That's interesting. I'll give Avi Loeb that. That is interesting.
It is also interesting that it kind of creates a Sephirotic color combination with the yellow sun and the like green crown.
Yeah.
It's very Sephirotic, as well as not being able to see it. So Ketu is the south node of the dragon, eclipses the sun. It's not a real body. It's a gross body, or excuse me, it's a subtle body, not a gross body. So it's actually made of smoke. So you can't see it. Just like you said, it's like occulted, obscured, hidden. So
Someone,
just thought this interesting.
someone in the chat asked, why would a intelligent not want to be detected, and why would they hide in an asteroid? Avi Loeb mentioned, I believe, the dark forest theory. Could you break that down, Dave?
Well, there's two things. The first answer is it's the same reason we don't directly make contact with the North Sentinelese people, the hunter-gatherer tribe near, I believe, Pakistan. It's also the prime directive in Star Trek. It's like the number one rule of interstellar space travel and visiting spacefaring species is you don't want to interfere with their development, right? It's basically like we'd be an ant farm and they'd just be looking at us. The alien ant farm theory, they don't want to fuck with us. They just want to look at us, right? They just want to study us. They just want to hide for a second, do a little survey, and then bounce, right? That's why.
Yeah, it's in one of the first scenes of one of the newer Star Trek movies where they go in and they're like, oh, we broke our objective because they got chased out by the native aliens who were throwing darts at them. Yeah. But they were more worried about like not saving their skin, but messing with this objective anyway.
Yeah, and we do that today with hunter-gatherers. So
another consideration too that I think Avi Loeb putting out, or relative to this idea, is the dark forest theory.
Yeah.
And that may be why we don't see, like, they made this kind of mathematical calculation that we would see so many civilizations, but yet we're not. And they pointed out that maybe these civilizations are not too quick to say, hey, we're over here. Not necessarily that they are under a threat, but they just don't know what is in the dark forest, so they kind of maintain stealth.
I'll talk about that briefly. Avi's talking about the Fermi paradox, and if there's so many stars out there and so many galaxies, how come we haven't seen anybody yet, right? The dark forest theory is just a play on words for, it's why like contact with, let's say, a neighboring tribe, even though maybe they weren't that far away during hunter-gatherer times, was so scary, especially at night, right? And the idea is if you don't know, then in every civilization's primary goal is to survive and also expand, but resources are finite. One, you don't want to share shit, right? And two, you don't want to come across a bunch of assholes, maybe us, right? Who mess your shit up. So it's about mutual suspicion. And that's the whole idea behind the dark force theory. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, that's why they would pause back there to whoever answered in the chat.
Hey, Dave, what do you think about the Arecibo message? I think I heard you mention that before. We're talking about Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan, of course, wrote the original script for Contact, and I think it passed through a bunch of hands among people in Hollywood, and it became what it ended up becoming. But he also sent out a real Arecibo message out of Puerto Rico in 74, I think it was, or maybe it was Costa Rica. But they sent a message up into space. They tried to make contact. Have you ever seen that? There's a little. It's a little message. You can pull it up online. It's called the Arecibo message. And it's, I don't remember how they did it, but they concluded like 4 or 5 different tidbits of information about humanity, like DNA code and all that. And this gets crazy because some people claim that they got a message back, that something responded. Now, this is totally called a hoax by most of the governments, but it's very interesting. There's a documentary about mainly about crop circles, but then they touch on this. And the notion is that somebody or something responded to Sagan's message in a crop circle because it looked like the message sent out.
Before the show, I don't know if you were in the chat yet, but we were talking about Puerto Rico. We were talking about that base, and there's actually an X-Files episode that we were chatting about before I think you hopped on, and talking about how they received a message back, and they sent the Federales out there to get Mulder and Scully because they had found a witness.
Yeah, there literally is an X-Files episode. I'm just looking up the name of it because I can't remember it. I've seen every episode of X-Files like a million times, but it's season 2, episode 1, Little Green Men. And yeah, there's a little, but to go along with what you were saying was, yeah, Carl Sagan did design an Arecibo message in 1974. Arecibo is the was a radio telescope in Puerto Rico. It's no longer in service. It basically eroded over time because they didn't maintain it very well. But it's also the one that Jodie Foster was using in Contact. But he sent the message, is a 1,000 something binary bit message towards the globular cluster M13, I believe, 25,000 light years away. And it was basically to demonstrate human technology. So as you mentioned, showing that we know math, showing our DNA code, that kind of thing. And then I think you also mentioned what's called the WOW signal. The WOW signal, I think, was in 1967 or 1968, but it was discovered by an Ohio State astronomer who essentially was using a radio telescope, and it got a strong radio emission lasting 72 seconds or a minute or something like that. And it was, I'm going to bro science this, but the WOW signal, it had been interpreted as a message received back from the actual Arecibo message 3 years later. I think the reason why it was called a hoax, though, is because the Arecibo message wasn't supposed to reach there in 3 years, and we weren't supposed to get a message back that quickly. So it wouldn't have been 3 years. I don't know if it was a hoax, the Arecibo message, but I don't think it was related. No, the WOW message. But I don't think it was related to the Arecibo message. But it was an interesting coincidence.
So the mainstream thing here is that this was meant more as a demonstration of human technological achievement than an attempt to sort of conversate with possible ETs, right? But when you look at the message itself, it has, I was wrong, it's not 5, it has 7 pieces of information that encode certain things, one of which is the estimated number of DNA nucleotides in the human genome, and a graphic of the double helix structure of DNA, and the dimension of an average man. They put 5'9" in for that.
That was from the Arecibo message, right? That's what we sent.
This is the one that Sagan and that. Yeah. This is not the hoax. And they put a graphic of the solar system, including Pluto. This is all stuff that seems to suggest that they wanted somebody to read it and know, have a general concept of who sent it.
Yeah, and there was a crop circle that wasn't even a circle that supposedly answered that exactly with the exact same data points, just different size, shape, hominid, different gene structure, different linguistical abilities, that kind of thing. You can see that. It's easy to find online. It's in probably 60 episodes of Ancient Aliens, but it's a really interesting one. It's one of the weirdest ones. It's probably the weirdest crop circle out there, and there are some weird ones.
Chilbolton, right?
Yeah.
If people want to look it up, I would probably look up Chilbolton code or code formation, but put in Chilbolton because that's the area of the UK, I guess, where the crop circle was, put.
Yeah, and it basically looks exactly like what they sent in the Arecibo message. So
yes.
Good call.
I'm glad you knew about this, man, because I was doing a horrible job trying to describe this.
No, you're good, man. This is my shit. So this is just a quick representation of the eccentricities of each of these guys, and this is what makes Atlas so different. It is like coming in fast and hard and straight, and yeah, it's just acting totally different than the other two. And now here comes our boy Avi Loeb. I have mixed emotions about what this guy does and says, but he published the book that Tyrone was talking about, Extraterrestrial, the First Sign of Life, Intelligent Life Beyond Earth, advocating consideration, keyword consideration, of artificial origins of Oumuamua. Proposed Oumuamua's unusual acceleration could be due to solar radiation pressure, suggesting a possible light sail. We mentioned that before. Suggested 3-eye atlas might also exhibit signs of artificial technology based on anomalous orbit and brightness. His claims are met with widespread skepticism and criticism. It highlights the balance between open-minded exploration and rigorous evidence and scientific inquiry. And this is where I have a, you know, I'm torn, right? Because I love speculating about this shit, but I also want to know the truth, right? And so what Avi does is, he wrote a book, he was a bestseller, right? He was on Lex Friedman, he was on Joe Rogan, he was on all the big podcasts, he's on the news. We're about to watch him on News Nation here in a second. And you know, this is his grift, for lack of a better word. But look, this is our grift right now. We're technically grifting right now. And so I'm not mad, I'm not hating the player or the game or anything. But what I will say is that what he does is he inspires people to think about this stuff in a different way, because otherwise we just have a bunch of dry, very technically, mathematically dry thinkers, which is not like the worst thing, right? We need those guys too, but people who are unwilling to step out of their, step into their imagination a little bit and ask, hey, maybe this fucking thing's coming from another planet, right? Maybe this is coming from another solar system, right? I think it's important questions to be asking. In fact, I think it's important we be looking at the skies for this kind of stuff all the time. And I think 3 in the last, couple, I don't know, since the telescope was invented, 300-400 years, is bad. That's not good, because I guarantee you there's more, right? So does this lead to Joe Rogan, then on the biggest podcast in the world, saying a bunch of nonsense? Yes. But does it lead us to talking about it and everyone talking about it and people in their backyard pointing their own telescope in the sky looking for shit like this? Yes. Does it get funding and stuff like that to go to private telescopes and institutional telescopes to end up looking for stuff like this? Yes. So, you know, I'm not mad, but it's just one of those things, right? This is the next link. We're just gonna play like the first minute of this. I think it's a 5-minute clip from News Nation with the man himself, Avi Loeb, talking. Please.
Anomalies. It moves on a trajectory that is very unusual. It is aligned with the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, and it will get extremely close to the inner planets, like, for example, Jupiter, Mars, or Venus. It will arrive closest to the Sun when the Earth is on the opposite side, so we won't be able to look at it. And that's the point where a spacecraft could make a maneuver to slow down. And it's coming from the direction of the Milky Way galaxy, the center of the Milky Way galaxy, where the sky is very crowded with stars. So that's why it took a while to notice it. And altogether, you know, the chance of this trajectory is less than 0.2% to be aligned with the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, less than 1 part in 20,000 to arrive so close to the other planets. And one wonders, could it be a design trajectory? And I'm not saying that we know, but I'm saying that we need to collect more data to figure out the nature of this object.
Okay, pause.
And if it turns out to be a comet, if it's...
Thank you. So that's Avi talking about this thing possibly making a maneuver behind the sun. which is wild speculation. There's an actual maneuver that the Starship Enterprise has done like 15 times in the series in the history of the show, Star Trek, which we're going to mention here in a little bit. I think Superman even pulled this move a couple times. Okay, we're going to get to that, but I did want you to bring up, pull somebody's comment up. It's from S. Lee. If you could go up a little bit, it's like the above that one. It's like a two above from S. Lee. Yeah, that one. The finding part may have ties to Epstein. Epstein was head in science. So I don't want to go on a big Epstein tangent here, but the funding, yes. So Jeffrey Epstein was very, very, very interested in scientists, particularly astrophysicists and astronomers. For some reason, he had a bunch of them compromised. You know, a bunch of them are on the list. So just throwing that out there, you can do with that whatever you want.
Are there Epstein ties to Avi Loeb?
I don't think ties to Avi. No.
Okay. What was and I should know this, but what was the main college that Epstein was operating out of?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest.
Because
somebody in the chat knows.
He went into some university, tried to get in with that crowd.
He actually funded a lot more than what people know about online, but it was MIT was a big one, Boston University. He funded some of the AI labs at Stanford. It was all kind of thing. And I think it's a lot to do with something like that you brought up, Tim. And it's not because I reject the Mahabharata sort of framework. I just don't believe in it because I'm Buddhist. So we reject all of that sort of Vedic literature and its presentation as being material. We understand it as being of consciousness. So it's not that I'm not saying it's not true. Sure, it could be true, but I think of it as consciousness. So I just wanted to say I wasn't disregarding it at all. I'm just saying that there's a transformation that does take place in the later text where it's terrestrializing those same forces, bringing them into Malkuth maxing, you could even call it, like bring it into the kingdom, bring it into the earth. So I think that that's an interesting kind of idea. Like we're all made of star matter. Maybe that's what it's saying. Maybe that's what a way to understand it. So.
Yeah. So this is Oumuamua's anomalous characteristics. Don't worry about the right half of the slide. We've already covered that stuff. The thing I want to focus on is non-gravitational acceleration. This thing observed deviation from expected Keplerian orbit. Keplerian orbit is an orbit of a celestial body around a central body that follows Kepler's laws of planetary motion, which describe the motion of objects under the influence of gravity. This thing did not behave next to the sun the way we would have expected it to. There's an equation there describing it. It accelerated for a period of time when it wasn't supposed to, and it decelerated for a period of time when it wasn't supposed to. So that's weird. And I don't know what to say about that, but there are some scientists who have tried to explain that. So he wrote a paper about this, showing non-gravitational acceleration unexplained by standard comet outgassing. So it didn't have any outgassing. So what he's saying is how the hell did it speed up after it passed the sun if it didn't have any cometary outgassing? No visible coma, that kind of thing, which is weird. And then the hypothesis and implications. The implications are Oumuamua could be an alien space probe or alien debris, but natural causes were also possible. I put a bunch of stars next to this because the paper itself, even though it was taken and ran with on a bunch of different YouTube channels and podcasts and Avi himself and news channels and stuff, the point of the paper was more of a thought experiment highlighting the need for more observations and open inquiry into interstellar objects. And that's what I was saying earlier about what Avi does. He's when he says stuff like this, it does lead to open inquiry on interstellar objects. Okay. This is an artist rendition of the light sail hypothesis. For this to work, they're saying that Oumuamua would have to be like super thin. I mean, like less than a millimeter. They're saying. I don't know. I'm not buying that, but it just sounds a little silly. But NASA does have schematics and stuff for solar sails. I even think James Webb Space Telescope uses a version of a solar sail. I could be making that up, but I think they might be. So it's not like unheard of, but as far as interstellar travel goes, you'd need to be close to a sun in order to, and the stars are very far apart. So I don't know. I'm not buying it. I left this AI generated picture here on the left.
Hold on one second. Can you go back?
Yeah.
Who actually wrote this? Do you know? Is this actually Avi Loeb's like?
This is Avi Loeb's like suggestion that it may be
I just need to know who wrote
hypothesis.
Was this all right? Because I saw the word albedos in there. I mean, that is alchemical. So I mean, I just couldn't have used it a different way.
There's that word shows up early in my key scientific definitions as well, but I didn't know anything about the alchemical nature of it. Do you want me to go back and look quick?
So I could be wrong, but I thought that was one of the alchemical stages.
We'll check it out at the end. But but yeah, Avi Loeb definitely wrote this.
Let me check that. I think it might be. Sorry, hold on.
I'm gonna go all the way. I'm just gonna cruise all the way to the key definition just to make sure. Albedo, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Bottom left?
Yes.
Measures the reflectivity of an object's surface.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the word. Yeah.
There's an alchemical nature to that?
I'm almost positive.
So they use albedo to try to estimate what the surface is like, how reflective it is. It also helps, the reflectiveness also helps them discover the tumbling of an object. And I'll get to that on a later slide. Let's see if I don't even know what happened to that slide. Oh, well. So there's a guy named Daryl Seligman who opposes Avi Loeb. He proposed that Oumuamua was projecting molecular hydrogen, and it was an ice body, and that hydrogen wouldn't have a tail or a coma. So and it could be hydrogen. That's what made it accelerate. It's the hydrogen iceberg model. I left this AI generated image on there because I think it's funny and I just didn't feel like making a new one. But it's the hydrogen iceberg model. And so here's one scientist saying it's a light sail and one scientist saying it's not, it's hydrogen. And then like a bunch of people kind of in the middle, or most people taking the side of we don't know. Okay. Because as far as I know, this Daryl Seligman guy's hypothesis was disproved as well. So it requires an extremely thin, flat object, inconsistent with observed tumbling. So we saw the tumbling earlier, like a thin light sail wouldn't do that. A natural explanation is molecular hydrogen is invisible in optical wavelengths, so we wouldn't see it. That's why it would explain no visible coma or dust. Here's just some criticisms. Most astronomers favor natural causes, but most astronomers and scientists are very conservative in their views, just like most archaeologists and Egyptologists are. Counter arguments from proponents: non-gravitational acceleration without visible cometary activity is unusual and merits open consideration of alternative explanations. So that's important to keep in mind, open consideration of alternative explanations, because that's really all he's saying. He's saying, hey, it might be an alien ship, is his clickbaity way of saying it's open for consideration of alternative explanations. But it sparked a lot of scientific impact, like I mentioned, encouraging new theoretical and observational studies of interstellar visitors. We've improved detection technologies and surveys. Surveys have been motivated by the need to capture future interstellar objects early, and we've done that now twice. So thank you, Avi. just more overview of his paper. So this is the Star Trek / Superman maneuver, the solar Oberth maneuver, which he says that the 3i Atlas may be an alien probe utilizing low, I don't know what that symbol is, I'm sorry, maneuvers for planetary intercepts, suggests a possible clandestine reverse solar Oberth maneuver during solar eclipse at perihelion. So this is the part where it's behind the sun and we can't see it. And a solar Oberth maneuver is a spacecraft propulsion technique that uses a rocket burn at perihelion when it's closest to the sun to maximize velocity change. The Oberth effect leverages the high kinetic energy near the sun where gravitational potential is lowest to amplify the efficiency of the burn, enabling significant orbit changes with minimal fuel. Star Trek Enterprise does this shit all the time. I already said that. I'm pretty sure that Superman's done it a couple times too. So the only reason I say that is I'm not laughing at him. I'm just saying that
it's odd that he would speculate on this. I was going to say it's odd that he would speculate on this future possibility, right? He's making all these observations, but then this is like not happened yet.
We're not going to know this till October. Yeah, October 29th, I believe. So,
do you think there'll be any like Heaven's Gate cults like this thing?
There probably already is. They're probably already getting cracking. They probably already existed, and then this was their thing. I'm not being facetious. I think likely this is the start of some shit like that. Yeah, for sure. Wouldn't you agree?
I saw people in the chat bringing it up, and I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it."
Yeah. I mean, people are going wild over this thing, and from the scientific minded to the spiritual minded, to everywhere in between, people are going wild about this thing because it's weird. It's massive. It's coming in really fast. It's going to hide behind the sun for a period of time. We've never seen shit like this before because we've never had the technology to do so. So I would imagine some people in groups are going to have, some, I don't know what else. I don't have a word for it, but there's going to be some mental health reactions to this, I would say. Yeah. And go ahead.
Health reactions.
Go ahead.
Well, also, I think you're going to have some of these agencies, maybe like NASA, who are going to see an opportunity here. They're going to play off of everyone's emotions, whether it's fear, or spiritual, or what have you, or hope. Who knows? All the emotions. Places like NASA, they're known to do this. Yep. They play on that, and guess what? Funding.
Yep. And
we're gonna Armageddon this thing.
Yes.
We need your money so we can blast this thing out of the sky before it hits Earth.
Exactly. Yes. I'm glad. I see you. That's exactly where I was going. And I wouldn't rule out like deflecting all of our attention from the Epstein files for this fucking thing. I really seriously wouldn't. There's a lot of different reasons to start paying a lot of attention to this thing. Funding, deflection, think about all the clicks people are getting on, influencers on TikTok or influencers on X are getting for making shit about this, right? Think about there's so many reasons why even just Live Science, which is famous for its clickbaity titles, probably got a gajillion clicks. They got one from us tonight, right? and the government, never waste a good disaster, right? So they could play this up real good and get lots of funding. They could even, I don't even want to go on a COVID binge here, but they scared the fuck out of everyone during COVID and got everyone to behave very strangely. They could do the same thing with this and get us to behave in ways that we don't normally behave.
Raising the food prices. They doing this little by slowly, you know what I'm saying? Everything starts off small. They already got people going worried about food and prices like that. All they got to do is throw this in the mix and then boom, somebody's buying them a new yacht tomorrow, the next day.
Exactly. And, you know, do you think that if they slide Avi Loeb a cool $10 million, he won't go on TV and say whatever the fuck they want? You know?
Bro, put anybody in a situation when they need something to take care of their family, they're going 9 times out of 10 do whatever they need to do.
Plus, there's non-disclosure agreements. NDA him, give him $10 million, have him go on TV, scare the shit out of everyone. Right?
Well,
I'm just
saying, this is the problem. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Tyrone. I just want to say this really quickly. Is maybe I agree that monetary incentives can definitely direct a lot of these people. Sure, at the lower and moderate level, sure. I think at one level, if we were to bring up the Typhonian OTO again, one of the greatest works someone in that order can do is create a mythology that people believe in and that is attributed to you. Just saying, it's produced a lot of writers if you understand like the people that have been connected to it, right? Like a lot of people who are discussing not just Lovecraft but other sort of neo mythologies. And so
new religions and myths start like that, bro.
Exactly. And so that if that's a great work, if you're a magician and you're saying that this is a sociological goal, perhaps to create like a mythology that captures the public, makes them reactive, angular, right? It's all about infernal geometries, how the planets rotate around things.
Yep. Constantine, you remember he's seen the cross in the sky, and what he do? Change to Christianity. It's going to change a lot of people's perspective and religions and ideas and beliefs and a lot of things. So you hit that right on point.
Can you pull up the most recent chat from Verax?
Yeah, it's definitely not just about money. It's about power too. And I know that that's the most cliche thing to say, but honestly, some of these guys in positions, in elitist positions, they like the money, but they're more concerned with the power. And part of that power is having a ideological edge over people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been the game probably since at least World War II, post World War II. Pull up that one from Verax again. I just want to read it out. Isn't the only person to publicly say anything about this Loeb, and he's getting ridiculed by his peers currently for doing so. When's all this other stuff happening? Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes, but I would say, who's the only one on TV? Who's what everyone's talking about, right? No one's talking about those other guys, and that's the whole point, right? I would also just as a quick correction, there is like 6 other people on the Oumuamua paper and 3 or 4 other people on the most recent paper. That's just how scientific papers go. He's the lead head of it, so he's the guy getting all the credit. But yeah, the news media is running with this shit. And when the news media starts running with shit, that's when we should all, I'm not trying to preach here. That's when I feel like everyone should start asking questions like what's really going on here, right? And so thank you for that comment, Verax.
You know, it's crazy that you say that, because, you know, people don't like to ask questions because they don't like to look stupid or bad. But, you know, to understand what's going on, you have to ask these questions and you have to figure out the answers for yourself. I mean, not anybody, you know, a lot of people are not going to sit on your side, and a lot of people got a lot of things to worry about. Like when I was mentioning about family, a lot of people don't want to lose their tenure. So they definitely don't want to say anything and lose their tenure, something that they've been working their whole entire life to get. Some people have created business and friendships and, you know, relationships with certain people, and they know how these people feel about certain topics, and they don't want to get into it. It's almost like you don't go to your family's house and talk about politics because you know somebody's going to flip the damn table.
I don't talk to my family about none of this shit for that exact reason. So we're getting close to the end of this. Just want to point out last line of falsifiable predictions here. If no such maneuvers or deviations like Superman or Starship Enterprise occur by December 5th, this thing is likely not extraterrestrial intelligence or ETI. So if they start ramping up the end of the world, you know, Armageddon, Deep Impact, Independence Day stuff before December 5th. We'll know why. But the dominant view, like Verac said, is that 3I Atlas is a natural interstellar comet. But critics argue extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, which is lacking in this current situation. We already covered this stuff. I don't know why that's in there. But the orbital anomalies and the ETI hypothesis, somebody brought this up earlier. Unusual retrograde orbit closely aligned with Earth's ecliptic plane, a statistically rare occurrence that fuels that speculation, right? It's got an unusual geometry. It's raising questions about potential intentional navigation, which would be the Star Trek maneuver, which some speculate could enable a reverse Oberth maneuver. We already talked about that. So this is really cool. I want to end on this because it's kind of like looking at the future of what's possible and when it comes to looking for interstellar objects. I just found out about this thing like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. Before I started going crazy on this, I found out about this. But this is the Vera C. Rubin Observatory. It's located in the Chilean Andes. This thing is the largest digital camera ever built. It's 3.2 gigapixels. Okay. It takes an entire picture of the southern sky every 3 to 4 days. It saw 3I Atlas 5 days before it was actually discovered. Then they went back and looked at the data from Vera C. Rubin, and they had to do a bunch of work to get the images to be able to see it. But this is how they confirmed the existence of a coma. When they first saw the thing, they were saying, "Oh my God, it's got no tail," which is basically saying it's maybe a spaceship, or it's more like Oumuamua. But this thing every single night is taking a picture of the southern sky every 3 to 4 days. It's crazy, and it's really exciting, if you ask me. It has significance for 3I Atlas and other interstellar objects because now we can use this thing to look for this stuff, right? It's how they estimated the size of it as well. And there's a link, should be titled "Behold Rubin's Observatory First Images Are Amazing." Let's just check this out for a few seconds.
All right, hold on. Here we go. This
isn't even in the high resolution that they actually have this shit in. It's wild.
I'm just waiting for the commercial.
No worries. I watch too much YouTube. I got to pay for it so I don't get the commercials.
Do you really?
Yeah, I haven't watched a commercial in 10 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Unless I'm watching UFC, then I watch the commercials. So you can go to their website, Rubin C. whatever Observatory. I'll show it here in a minute. This is actually, I'm seeing a delay. I don't know about you guys. It's much cleaner when you watch it yourself. But you can go to the website and see high resolution pictures. It's just a small section of pictures that they've taken. And they're going to be able to train this thing on interstellar objects. They're going to be able to specifically look for interstellar objects, but not just that. For example, the initial pictures of Atlas were out of focus because they had to change the alignment. They got to do a bunch of complex stuff to make sure that this thing can look at interstellar objects appropriately. But it captured 49 images of 3I Atlas starting June 21st, which was before the official discovery. So I think that's pretty cool. It shows precise and advanced imaging that shows precise orbit and physical property determination, showcasing its vital role in interstellar object science, which, as I mentioned, is, I mean, this is fucking wild, is it not? And as I mentioned, is important, right? Like, we live in a, did you see how much shit is in the fucking solar system? And then how much stuff that could possibly be coming into the solar system on a regular basis that we don't see. It's not fear mongering, in my opinion, to use resources to look for comets and asteroids that could come close to Earth. Because even large ones like that one that Atlas, it's going to come so close to Mars that they actually think it could affect some of Mars's moons and slightly affect the orbit and rotation of Mars, because the thing is huge, right? So you can go ahead and turn that off. They're watching us, he said. Yeah, put me back on there. So am I up? I'm not looking. Yeah. So
sure.
This is just some shit I was already saying. Rubin's role in detecting interstellar objects. Regular repeated imaging allows for tracking object trajectories and changes over time, crucial for dynamic interstellar visitors. High sensitivity of the camera detects small dim objects traveling at high velocities. This is interesting. Machine learning and orbital computation. My telescope upstairs does not have machine learning, but it does do orbital computation, and I bought it 10 years ago. But the tools that they have nowadays, but they spend the big money, they can refine trajectory estimates and from initial detections to confirm interstellar status. They're just going to be pulling in so much data every single night from this thing. It's going to be exciting. And then they always combine this, like, when James Webb Space Telescope, the new one up there, finds something, then they put Hubble on it, and then they put Rubin on it, or vice versa. Rubin finds something, some guy in his backyard finds something, then they point all the big ones at it. So it's a giant tag team effort, and this is going on all over the world every single night. Astronomers are, working night shift. Basically nowadays they don't have to like crunch numbers because the computer's doing it, but somebody's got to, I guess, man the lighthouse. But it's exciting. And so future impacts on astronomy provides unprecedented scientific insights into cosmic evolution, dark matter, which is another thing altogether, planetary formation, and rare transient events like supernova and gravitational lensing. Which is cool. Yeah, I wanted to end on this. Somebody said something earlier that is reminiscent of this, but it says, we do not live and operate in a universe with discrete physical objects separated by dead space. The universe is one individual dynamic whole in which energy and matter are so deeply entangled, it is impossible to consider them as independent elements. So even though this thing is coming from another, even if it's not an alien, and it's coming from another solar system, it's intimately on an energetic level intertwined with our solar system now and will be forever. The changes it makes as it passes through our solar system are going to be lasting forever, right? I think that's beautiful. And I think that it says a lot of things about, just the nature of what the hell we're doing here, right? You can prove scientifically that, one particle can affect another particle regardless of how far apart they are in space. It's a proven scientific thing that you can do. So just because we're far away from something doesn't mean that it doesn't affect us. And it's like we're, on a giant pool table in the stars, right? And somebody hit a pool cue and smoked a Muamua, sent it spinning, and then another one knocked 3I Atlas into our sun's orbit. And this shit is happening all the time, really slowly, and over billions and billions of years. And it's fucking awesome. So I just want to share it with you guys tonight.
Oh,
That's it.
thank you, dude.
All I got. You're welcome.
Yo, that was a fucking pretty in-depth presentation there.
Yeah, I wasn't fucking around all week. I was literally like going nuts on this all week. So
holy shit, yeah. Well, thank you. Did anybody want to ask him anything? Or say anything about that?
Well, I love the way you ended it, Dave. Sorry, Tyrone.
No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I just want to say someone in the chat brought up John Crichton from the Farscape series. If you've never seen that, Farscape's like a legendary sci-fi series that never really took off in the way that the others did. But what made Farscape really good, and I promise this has a point, but what made Farscape really cool was that it satirized all the sci-fi series that came before it, and it was intentionally camp. It and his tagline, the main character John Crichton aboard the Leviathan ship, so his ship was actually a Leviathan, a living being. He would the show would always open, he would say, "Look up and gaze at the horrors I have seen." Very Typhonian OTO, just saying. So I'm just saying that we can understand like objects coming forward at us as conceptual markers, as Nick was saying in the chat. It's magic. It's like they're talking about light moving through the Sephira. Even like some of the videos, I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, oh, okay, that's like the path of the dragon. It's like moving upwards. This body of light, this luciferic force, is moving through our eyeballs. I don't know. Nick knows all that stuff, and Lisa, but I don't know that. But then to bring it all the way around, there's another sci-fi series that I often cite, Battlestar Galactica Reimagined.
Love that one.
Everything that has happened before shall happen again. So whether we know about a moving object in space, whether that's real, whether that's not real, whether that's just a cool story, it doesn't really matter, because all we can change is really like it's up to us, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it all back to Malkuth. That's what I say. So thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to say thanks to the chat as well. Your chat is lit. I like your chat.
Yeah, no, that normally is. Yeah, no, but for this show, you definitely had people going. That's what's up. Thank you. Yeah, there was a lot of occult stuff. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of times when I was standing at the screen, I was kind of like getting lost in the occult ideas, especially like when I was watching the planets and stuff. I just like so much stuff with like Kabbalah or the music of the spheres was just popping into my head.
That is not my world. I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
You need to come on my show and tell us all about that.
Yeah, I could definitely make that happen. Yeah, but no, I think like what Jim was even saying, presentation. Yeah, I didn't want to keep interrupting it with like stuff that I had no idea about. But there was a lot of, I think, occultism in there.
I think there is in everything, probably. So.
Yeah, because I mean, paying attention to the skies, always the outside of ourselves, the element of being outside ourselves is what plays a lot with the occult. The idea that there's something bigger than us out there is always an idea that's going to run through many people's heads.
I was even thinking of the way that they're using those satellites now that you're explaining. I almost feel like it's like kind of like making an orphanum without the rings. You just have all the all over the place that then can start looking at the same situation just from different angles.
Yeah, I wanted to say something that I meant to. I planned on saying at the end is to anyone watching is that you can you don't need a telescope. I just recommend seeing like planets in our solar system through an actual telescope versus like pictures and shit that you see online. The first time I trained my own telescope onto Jupiter and saw 3 of its moons and shit was like quite literally a spiritual experience for me. And you don't need a telescope. You can usually there's like observatories possibly in your area. There's also local groups that go bring their own telescopes and they stay out late and they hang out. And most of them are open to like, you showing up and asking questions and having a peek. They're usually pretty excited about it. You can find groups like that on meetup.com. And I highly recommend it. And now's the time because you can buy like a totally badass telescope for like $1,000 that has like machine learning and like fucking does all the celestial mechanics for you, and orbital geometry and stuff. And you just push a couple buttons and you align the thing to the time and the date and your position on Earth, and then you just it'll bring up a database of everything that's above the horizon at that specific time, at the specific place on the planet. And you just click whichever one you want and your telescope goes. So you can go to like an astronomy group and see this 3-eye atlas for yourself. Best time to be would be in September and October, and then after October would be November and December, not during the perihelion. And as Brooke mentioned earlier, and I'm glad I remembered to come back around to this, is that you want to go on a night when there's a waxing or waning crescent, meaning the moon is at its smallest, a new moon, and there's not a lot of light pollution, and yeah, go check this thing out. Like telescopes aren't that hard to work nowadays. You don't need like somebody doing math in a notepad next to you while you're following an object around. You know what I mean? So it's going to be fun times ahead, my friends. Fun times ahead.
You think they'll make a big deal out of this thing, like even more than it is now?
I don't know. I don't know. But like as we talked about, the government likes to do that. Highly influenceable people like to react to things like that. And so who's to say, man, if the Epstein file pressure keeps going, or they can't find a war to fight and get the war machine going, who knows, man? Who knows? But we'll know by December 5th whether this thing is gonna make a move or not. Gonna pull a Superman.
Yeah. Well, I guess Dave called it first. If this happens to become a thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Dave, are you on Spotify? Is your show on Spotify?
Yes, sir. It is on Spotify. We're on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble.
Cool. Is it listed perchance under Humans of the Universe or Humans of the?
On Spotify, it is. Yes, correct.
Okay, so Spotify, if you want to find your show, people need to put in Humans of the Multiverse.
You got it. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And we're on Rumble as well. We're on YouTube. We do weekly interviews with interesting people. This is not usually my, I do a little space stuff on my live streams, but I don't normally, this is just a hobby. But the show is mostly based on ancient history, lost ancient technology, that kind of thing. I also just talk to interesting people. I dropped an interview this morning with X-Ray Girl, the producer from Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers, as well as Forbidden Frontiers. We got another one dropping on Monday with a dude who's found a place in the South he calls the Skinwalker Ranch of the South. And it's a place where a bunch of highly anomalous shit happens. And this guy was a former military intelligence officer, and he goes about his paranormal investigations. His name is Trey Hudson. He's got a book called The Meadow Project, but he goes about his stuff like an absolute professional. And he's got his documentary coming out soon, and they call this thing the Skinwalker Ranch of the South. We're dropping that episode Monday morning at 10 a.m. So we got on next Friday, we got the guy, Michael Donnellan, who did the Atlantica premiere, Tyrone and Nick from Cosmic Summit, the Atlantis movie.
Yeah, I'm actually talking about getting him on my show too. We're in conversation with that right now too.
He's a super fascinating guy because not only is he like this badass archaeologist, he's got like 2 black belts. He almost fought in the UFC. He was an animator for Disney for like 6 years or something like that, a digital animator for Disney. He's got a very interesting life. He was even on the show Big Brother, but he wouldn't let me ask him about that. But he's a very interesting guy. His episode comes out next Friday. We do a live stream every Thursdays. That's just more loosey-goosey, where we kind of just talk about whatever the fuck I want. But yeah, Mike and Dave's Multiverse, at Mike and Dave's Multiverse on YouTube. You can find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the typical shit. Yeah.
Awesome.
The Nerdrotic thing I saw on IG looks great. I was really excited for that personally. Just wanted to say
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I was excited too. X-Ray Girl's hilarious, man. She was really fun to talk to. She's a Renaissance woman. She wears many hats. I like talking to people like that who have just a free spirit. And so that was a really fun one for me. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that was a lot of work. A lot. I know you wanted to be done by 11 too. Sorry about that.
It's all good. I was working on this anyway because I'm a nerd. So when you asked me, I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it."
Yeah. No, I thought this was great, dude. Nice. Yeah. I mean, you pretty much. Was there anything else you wanted to plug for yourself and your show? I mean, you pretty much.
No, that's it. Just subscriptions on YouTube are nice. I like those.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna let everybody else plug their stuff, and then we'll get out of here. All right, Brooke. You want to let them know where they can find your podcast, where they can hear you talk more.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on tonight, Dave. That was incredible. I loved the conversation. Fantastic presentation. You can find me at Dark Florida Podcast on Instagram and wherever you get your podcast. Check me out. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And we got Jen the Ninja. What up?
Thanks, boss, Mr. 93. Brooke also has a great IG. I just want to say that. I always do like Brooke's IG. So I'm just gonna say. Everybody does. Tim does. I follow Tyrone on Twitter mostly because I'm mostly on Twitter, and Ethan I talk to everywhere. But so if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter X at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn, or on the show count at Threshold Saints, which is also for IG. And you can also hear the Grey Lodge, which slowly getting uploaded to YouTube, very slowly, but it's happening. And for my show, have a really big interview dropping next week, special, secret, top secret. Only Nick knows. Well, Nick and a couple other people. But so thank you guys, and thank you, Nick, and really great to meet you, Dave. Thank you, Tim, Tyrone, and of course Ethan, brother in the Occult Reject Gang. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. And Tyrone, let them know where they can find you out again.
Everything can be found on my website, rebirthoftheword.com is my own domain. I'm allowed to do whatever I want on there. So you'll find all my articles on there, everything that I've came to learn about. And also you can get my book, Journey Through the Origins of History, on Amazon, bestseller. So if you want to support me, go ahead and just check out either my website or get the book. Appreciate it, Nick. Thanks, man.
Oh, of course. Thank you. And we got Tim. What's going on?
Hey, yeah. Shout out to Lisa, by the way. Had some great comments tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to all the other rejects. Thanks, Nick. I'm Tim Constantine. My show is Sixth Sensory Podcast, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you jumping on. And last but not least, again, Ethan Indigo. What is going on?
Salute, Dave. That was awesome. Great inquiry into this happening, and everyone always epic to hear your insights into everything that's going on. Ethan Indigo Smith on all the usual suspects of social media. On Sundays, if technological Mars in retrograde allows, Headless and Ricardo and I are doing our weekly trialogue. So check that out around 10 o'clock, I think, usually on the East Coast. So yeah, salute to everyone. I bow to you. And Dave, that was awesome.
Thank you very much. And I highly suggest to go check out that show. Trialogue. And thank you again, Ethan. And Dave, for real, that was really amazing. I mean, that was a lot more than even when you told me how many slides you brought, I didn't know it was going to be that much, like information. And I'm not complaining. like, thank you. That's that was some awesome work.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm just glad have a place to come here and ramble about this shit. So, and people are going to listen to me. So I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
No, this one I actually might have to like go back. I might actually re-listen to because like, but the chat and the numbers I couldn't really.
And thank you for pulling up my links.
I was just like,
that was clutch. I didn't want to have to think about switching screens and shit. So thank you.
yeah, of course. And thank everybody else who was on the show. That's what's up. I really appreciate it. It was a little long one, but that's happens a lot. And thank you everybody in the chat. There was a lot of people there from the beginning to the end, and I appreciate that. And again, thank you, Lisa, as well, dropping all the gems in the. I think she's in Canada right now doing this. So,
and Joshua the Branch. I just want to shout out Joshua, who's been a guest on this show a couple times, as well as my show, and also co-host in the Grey Lodge. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah. I saw him in there a lot as well. Thank you all, and thank everybody who's always, putting stuff in the chat. That's where we go live because we have an awesome chat. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.